we are boringly stable in many ways.
Right. That Swiss boringness is actually a huge asset.
It does help, and we better make sure that we protect that against external influence. And that we defend it, not only protect it but defend it.
Interesting.
Because it is the foundation of many things in Switzerland, not only industry, also banking, for that matter.
Right. Welcome, everybody, to this new episode of Getting Serious with Woody Wade. I'm Woody Wade, and today finds me in the town of Flamatt. Now, maybe you don't know where Flamatt is, if you're outside the country especially. It's right on the border between the canton of Fribourg and the canton of Bern, about halfway in between the two cities. And we're on the Fribourg side of the border, and I'm at the headquarters here of Comet, the Comet Group, talking to its CEO, Stephan Haferl. And we've got a lot of interesting things to cover today, and so I want to thank you very much for allowing us to come up here. Maybe let's just start by tell us where we are. What is this room? What happens here?
So what happens here is actually the burn-in and outgoing inspection for high voltage generators, which are being used to power X-ray tubes. And X-ray tubes, that is actually how Comet started in 1948. Back in 1948, it was very hard to come by X-ray tubes, medical X-ray tubes in Europe. Mm-hmm. And so a couple of investors in Bern decided to, start a company to manufacture X-ray tubes. Mm-hmm. Very simple. It was a scarce item after the war.
Yes.
And they bought a license in the US from a company called Maclet and started to manufacture. And then
Here in Flamatt?
No, that was 2 stone throws away from here in the canton, of course.
Oh, just over the line.
On the other side, in Liebefeld-Köniz.
Uh-huh.
And then everything else is history.
Yes.
So,
right.
So over the first, I would say, 20-something years, focus was on medical X-ray tubes. And then when that was sort of mastered, they started to think about what else can we do. We are manufacturing actually electron tubes, vacuum tubes. Well, let's do vacuum capacitors. Back then, that was for the broadcasting market.
Okay.
And then, fast forward into the 90s, all of a sudden, medical wasn't that interesting anymore. The competition was very strong. You had those vertically integrated behemoths of medical industry, Philips, Siemens, Toshiba. So all of them sort of squeezed Comet out. At that time, luckily, on the X-ray side, we had actually a nice business starting on the industrial side, so industrial X-ray, which is roughly speaking everything that is not medical.
Okay.
And being mostly used for non-destructively testing industrial parts. That can be, a printed circuit board looking for defects.
Okay.
It can be...
and it's X-rays that do that. I didn't even know that.
So it's the same thing as when you, you crash on your bike.
Right.
Your arm hurts.
Right.
You go to the hospital, to the doctor's office.
Yep.
And you say, well, it hurts. And luckily, he's not going to pull out a scalpel to check whether something is broken. He non-destructively tests by doing an X-ray.
Yes.
And that is being done in all sorts of industrial applications. When there is not a single car or jet engine that is being assembled, most, if not all parts have been inspected non-destructively for non-visible defects.
Huh.
Right.
Okay.
So that was in the 90s. And in the 90s, also something happened. Vacuum capacitors became an ingredient, a noble part for plasma control in the semiconductor industry.
Right.
And that is now actually the largest division
Yeah.
of Comet. So Comet being a technology group in Switzerland, bringing to market basically two technology families. One is X-ray, and the other one is RF power. Starts with the vacant capacitor.
Oh.
You put those into matching networks,
Yeah.
combine them with a high frequency generator, and boof, you have the plasma excitation chain being used to drive all sorts of processes in the manufacturing of semi-devices, be it for etching, dry etching, for deposition, for cleaning, all sorts of very, very important process steps in the making of a modern day chip.
Right. Wow. And the rest is history from,
And the rest
from
is
the
history,
point
yeah.
where you actually then moved into this sort of semiconductor world then, right?
So
That's changed everything for you, I guess.
it did actually. First with our plasma division, plasma control division, that went really fast, going from the vacant capacitors to the so-called matchboxes or matching networks. I would say the first couple of years, we almost didn't know what was happening to us. It just skyrocketed. And we've continued on ever since. First, we were more of probably, you would call that a contract manufacturer for one of the three large wafer fab equipment makers. And then over the years, we have developed our own technology and are, designing to their requirements the corresponding critical subsystems they need in order to, ignite and control and manipulate the plasma in such a manner that you can create those nanoscopic structures that make up basically the backbone of semiconductors.
Yeah. Wow. I understood almost nothing of what you just
Doesn't
said.
matter. Doesn't matter.
But it does show that, here in Switzerland, the capability exists to do all kinds of, precision manufacturing.
Yeah.
And I want to get into that in a little bit. But, I thought we would talk a little bit about the company, but it sounds to me like we don't really need to. But there are a few things I just want to sort of supplement what you said. The overall revenue is almost 500 million Swiss francs, right? Some 450 million, something like that.
Was.
And what I've got here in my notes is not just a mentioning of the sort of the AI computing infrastructure and the whole semiconductor fabrication, but also things like miniaturization and battery technology. So this is really, all of these things are just at the bleeding edge of where we are today with the things going on.
I hope not. Leading edge.
Well,
leading edge, I'm okay. Bleeding edge is where it is no longer okay.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
So yes, I mean, from our positioning, it is very clear. It is through technological leadership that we can become market leaders, and we are largely market leaders in everything we do. We have specialized ourselves in niches that require high precision, high technology from design to also the processing.
Right.
And that allows us to command good enough prices in order to, have a good living here in Switzerland.
Right. Right. One of the things that I haven't done, which I should have done right off the bat, is actually introduce you, Stephan, in a little bit more detail.
Right.
Just so everyone knows that you know what you're talking about when you mention all this technical stuff. You've been the CEO here for about 3.5 years, but that's following at the tail end of a 20-year career in the company, right? Which is remarkable that the CEO is promoted from within. Fantastic. That doesn't always happen these days.
True.
Right?
Yep.
Your engineering background goes all the way back to your master's degree at the ETH, the Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich.
Correct.
And on top of that, then you got a PhD focusing on thermodynamics and fluid dynamics, which we will not be talking about in any detail whatsoever, if you don't mind. But as the CEO of a company that's doing all the things that you're talking about, it means that with your background, you are sitting right at this intersection of a few interesting things. First of all, there's this very deep engineering credibility. There's industrial innovation, clearly. There's long cycle strategic planning, but these days there's also a lot of short or almost no term. That's how short is. Tactical responsiveness that's necessary, right?
Right.
And on top of all of that, there's the geopolitical issues having to do with the semiconductor industry, right? So it's not, you're not manufacturing bicycles or something but rather you're sort of right at this, the heart of some things that nobody really knows exactly what could go on. So I thought what we would do today, even though we're already well into it, was we'd talk about 3 or 4 different things. First of all, Comet's business.
Yes.
Not that we've already done that, but there are a few other questions I'd like to ask. But I'd also like to get into a little bit about the culture here.
Yep.
And you as a leader. And then throughout these 3 topics, if we can sort of weave in Switzerland and talk a little bit about your thoughts on what this is like as a place to innovate and a place to be based, or for a company like Comet to be based, right? So let me start out with this question. You already alluded to the fact that what you do is manufacturing for the chip makers. You don't make the chips yourselves,
Nope.
right? You're obviously very much involved in what's going on with AI and with everything to do with semiconductors, or what that could lead to, but you're not in that business directly. You're in what some people would call the picks and shovels strategy, right? Which is you supply the absolutely necessary infrastructure
Correct.
for them to do their job. So you're an enabler, right?
Absolutely.
And I guess it's fair to say, I'm just guessing, that you think that that's a better long-term strategy than actually being in the semiconductor industry itself?
That's a good question. I think for a small mid-cap player like Comet, we have an important play as a specialist in niches like RF power or X-ray inspection, to be a very strong partner and enabler of the industry. And we pride ourselves that on the plasma control side, for instance, our products, from component to module to critical subsystem, they are kind of the kingpins on those large and very expensive wafer fab tools, where actually the processes are driven, which if you take a leading edge, latest greatest node or a chip, the manufacturing of which takes 16 weeks, right? For 16 weeks. That wafer is circling through all these different process chambers until it is ready. And then at the end of the line, where you start packaging those chips, you dice them and then start packaging. And what is sort of the latest greatest now is so-called advanced 3D advanced packaging, where you start to stack them up.
Oh.
We do X-ray inspection in order to detect defects,
Right.
deviations
Right.
that occur during the processes,
Right.
in the packaging. So we kind of span the entire value chain.
Yeah.
And we do that with high-tech niche products.
Right.
So yes, we are the enablers. We're in certain ways little kingpins for the industry.
Of course. And if I can't remember where I read this, but something about the defect rate is actually a lot higher than you'd expect. It's not like 1%. It's like 1 out of every 10 or something chips have something that would actually cause them to be pulled out of the line and not used or scrapped, or how does that work?
I mean, in the beginning, when they ramp up a new node, then that is a very painful moment, because you're sort of cooking for 16 weeks those wafers,
Right.
and there are, like in the manufacturing of a wafer, from the pure bare silicon to now it's ready to be diced, you have, I would say, in excess of 1,000 important process steps.
Oh,
So it's quite a bit.
right.
And if you then lose the wafer or a sizable amount of the chips due to, imperfect processing and whatnot, that is a very costly thing.
Sure, must be.
And so the yield curve in a ramp up is enormously important. And I would say, if you take, let's say, not the leading edge, but more mature nodes, there you have a yield which is close to 100%.
Oh,
right?
okay.
Because at that point they have learned to master those processes, and they have all the
Okay.
guide controls to the nth degree.
Okay.
Now, having said
That
that,
still needs to be checked.
oh yeah,
Right.
100%.
Right.
Because small deviations then in the process can lead very fast to catastrophic results.
Yeah.
And there are, I'd say, I'm not even exaggerating if I say there are millions of parameters you have to have under control. So slight deviations here plus adding that over there, and then all bad things happen.
Right.
Now, when you take, for instance, Intel chips, you have i9, i7, i5. i9 is a chip that has no flaws at all. It works on all cores. And if they detect, there's one that is kind of limping on the right foot, then they just kind of downgrade it and say, well, at least 7 are working of the 9 cores. So they know how to handle defects later on by binning products. That works in certain areas. In other areas, it's just bad yield, and then they toss it in the bin.
Okay.
Right.
That means it just being basically sort of rebranded and repriced, but it still can be sold, right?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Customer isn't cheated at all. I mean, you pay less, you get less.
Is it only Intel that can do that, or will they all be heading in
Others
that
do
direction
too?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it is still usable and useful for certain things, you use it.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that will be sort of a complete waste.
Yeah. Give me a starter lesson here. You mentioned wafer, right?
Yep.
That's the big, the big sort of plate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The shiny
Oh,
plate.
it's that.
Right.
Okay, I wasn't sure how big that was.
Yeah.
And how many
300
chips?
millimeters.
And dicing it is when you actually break it into the individual
you
chips.
cut
then, right?
them.
Yeah.
And singulate them.
How many would there be on a wafer?
Oh, that really depends on what semi-device you have on the wafer. That can be, small memory chips where you have thousands on a large wafer.
Okay.
And when you then go to AI accelerators, the fabled NVIDIA chips, you don't have that many.
Okay.
Right? But we're talking about dozens.
So it's not like one standard. They're all for 3x3 or something like that, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Thanks, because you can tell I really don't know much about this subject at all. But let's move to something that I do understand a little bit better.
Okay.
And that's the geopolitical angle of the business, right? So about 2/3 of the business in the semiconductor sector of what you're doing is in Asia, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Because that's where the music is playing these days, right?
Yeah. For a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Right. Exactly. So the geopolitical risks that are there that weren't there, there's always some geopolitical risks, right? But recently, and particularly with the whole Taiwan, situation as perhaps a pawn in this bigger, battle between the two elephants in the room, right? To mix all kinds of metaphors. How has this geopolitical factor kind of changed the way things are managed here, or changed your perception of risk and how you build that into decision making?
So, I mean, this is not a new thing. It has just become very obvious and much talked about in media, that there is sort of an unsolved riddle with Taiwan, China, and the US, and the fact that Taiwan is the place to be, with TSMC certainly top of the list when it comes to chip making. And so that Damocles sword has been over the island and over the industry for quite some time.
Right.
Has it changed the way we go about our business, especially also with customers in Taiwan, and our activities that we have in Taiwan over the past couple of years? No, it hasn't. Personally, my belief is nothing's going to happen.
Why is that?
That could be so catastrophic for the global economy that, I mean, no.
Even China wouldn't dare to make a move. Is that what you mean?
I mean, China, in many ways, I think, are much more measured in how they approach things. And if you think about it, war has not been really a tool of politics for China.
Not for quite some time, that's for sure.
A very long time.
Right.
So, and they also understand that this could have catastrophic consequences for them, not only in and around Taiwan, but you never know if they get bogged down in a war, a catastrophic war there. Would that lead to more insurgencies otherwise in the country?
Within.
And,
yes, right.
I mean, it's a multicultural, multi-ethnic country.
Right.
So there are many considerations.
Yes.
And many reasons why that would be a really unwise idea to go about this using violence, force. On the other side, I mean, they are in their talk sort of stern, borderline belligerent, which definitely draws a lot of attention of Western media. But when you think about it, if they would be talking nice with Taiwan, then again, maybe in Tibet and in Xinjiang, they would say, well, maybe we can also kind of jump ship.
Right.
So they have to take a tough stance. Don't forget, it's such a huge country.
Right.
And they have it fairly well under control.
Yeah.
And it is rather prosperous. I've been going to China for more than 25 years, and that country has developed tremendously. And also, you have to say, if you go back maybe 50 years and look at how they have changed poverty in that country,
right?
No civilization ever has achieved that.
Right.
How they lifted
hundreds of millions,
poverty,
right?
People to a level of affluence which is quite respected. Right. They don't want to destroy that.
No. And I guess you'd also say that China is very patient, right? And they can also say, oh, well, if it takes us 100 years, it'll just take us 100 years.
And I think that
we
is
can
exactly
wait.
Their strategy.
Yeah.
And you can look at it as they're wearing down the resistance the Taiwanese have to yet again becoming Chinese. And then again, you have to think about how did Taiwan, how did that happen, right? It wasn't that all the Taiwanese population back then was happy to take on the KMT, the Kuomintang.
Yep.
They were invaded.
Sure.
So you have a lot of old people there who still remember we were once a different nation.
Exactly.
So
pre-KMT
base. People there that are very friendly towards China. Not because they feel coerced to be friendly, but because they feel Chinese. Right. So Will there be a political solution?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
More than a military solution
Yeah,
or a
which is
conflict-based solution.
yeah.
Does being a Swiss corporation play any role at all in your local credibility there?
Certainly a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, we come with a certain reputation.
Yeah.
And
As a reputation as Comet or reputation as a Swiss company?
Swiss-based company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
mean, that's
Certainly
always
as Comet also,
Yeah,
obviously.
both-
I don't mean to
both.
ignore that, but I mean,
Yeah.
just the Swissness of Comet already
helps. It helps.
Yeah, already helps. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
It does. Just like made in Germany is also something that still resonates quite far. On the other side, I also have to say that companies, local companies in Asia, be it from Japan to Malaysia, Taiwan, Korea, you name them, China as well, they are good competitors in certain areas. So they have developed quite a lot, and to rest on the Swissness laurels will be a very bad thing to do.
Oh, interesting.
So we are, if we want to remain technological leaders in our fields, it's not only competition in Western Europe or in the US,
Right.
increasingly also over there in Asia.
Yeah.
You have, you have a huge pool of young people.
Yeah.
Education is getting better and better.
Right.
To levels that are on par in certain areas to what we have here. So it is a race.
Do you manufacture abroad? Or
We do, yeah.
also.
We do. So we have manufacturing in Malaysia. This is going to be our sort of headquarter of these. That's how we dub it.
Is that the cyber corridor somewhere? Or does that still exist, the cyber corridor? It's been a long time since I was in Malaysia.
So
Petaling Jaya, all this area?
Yeah, so we have Penang, which
has, Penang, way up in the north.
Yeah.
Oh,
way
yeah.
up in the north.
Oh, yeah.
Penang is every semiconductor logo
is in Penang.
Is there.
Oh, okay.
So it is sort of what the Silicon Valley used to be in the 70s.
Interesting.
It's over there.
Okay.
So,
okay,
a great place.
I'm confusing that in that case then with, I think maybe it was the government plan to introduce some kind of they called it a cyber corridor. This goes back probably 20 years or something.
Okay.
It was like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter.
So we manufacture in Penang. We have a factory, well, actually 2 factories in Germany. So X-ray systems, we design and manufacture up in Hamburg. I just came back today from Hamburg. High frequency generators we develop partially, but most of all manufacture in Aachen, Germany. And then we have a little, let's say, NPI production site. So we kind of build prototypes to low volume, high mix in San Jose. So really in the valley.
Right. But nothing in Taiwan directly.
In Taiwan, right now, it is more of a sales service engineering site, which could change into a little bit more over the course of the next quarters.
Right.
Since we have quite some engineering demand there with all the big players in Taiwan.
Then how long ago did all this international growth take place?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So when I started at Comet in 2007, if I remember correctly, we had Flamatt. We had, back then, we had a site in Stamford, Connecticut, and we were in Shanghai.
Okay.
That's about it.
That was it.
And today, it happened over, I would say, at max the last 10 years. We're in Japan, we're in Taiwan, we have pretty much in Shanghai 3 sites. Kind of stupid, but I mean, we grew so fast that we didn't find
that was the only way to expand,
yeah,
right?
Exactly. Just take the next space over there.
Yeah.
Malaysia has become, since 2020, a big thing,
Uh-huh.
where we also finished our own proper building
Yeah.
in Penang, and are equipping it now with all the machinery in order to start manufacturing of first step is vacant capacitors. So same thing that we do one floor down from here.
Mm-hmm.
And since 2020, we've been building, I would say, the largest volume of matching networks, matchboxes, also in Penang.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. So while you were globalizing,
Yeah.
and you were here for most of that then, right? Did you sense a change in the perception of risk in the company? I mean, Swiss companies, generally speaking,
Mhm.
right, are not known for being big risk takers. It's a conservative mindset that has been here for
Yeah,
since the year 1291, I suppose, right?
you're right.
Maybe before.
Yeah.
But basically, to do the things that you're doing means that you have to obviously take measured risks, and risks beyond just, well, what would it be like to, jump across the line here and establish an office in the canton of Bern, but rather, like you said, to go to the other side of the world. It's not an easy thing to decide to do, right? There's, never mind the financial side of it, but it's also just, having something that you still must have under your control or within,
Right.
your embrace,
Right.
but it's on the other side of the world.
It's a difficult question because it has so many layers. If I would take the risk side of many of the decisions that we take today and would fast rewind to 2007 and say, well, okay, let's put that decision on the table today.
Mm-hmm.
I think he would have been fired back in 2007 for being so risky in your proposals. But
the
change.
proposals themselves
That
would
would
have
have
actually
been,
branded
"Are
you as
absolutely
this
nuts.
maverick that we don't want people
You
like
are
you.
out of your mind." So,
Interesting.
I mean, we had back then paradigms like
Yeah.
vacuum manufacturing can only be in Switzerland.
Okay.
This is a core competency.
Right.
We cannot
Let it out of our
offshore
hands. Right.
or even nearshore that. It has to be here.
Right.
No.
When did that
longer.
change? What? Or
20, well, that's maybe a bad example because that changed in 22. But it was a long process to get to that point where we say, yeah, it remains a core competence, but we are able to protect the IP. There is a necessity to have a second site. It makes total sense in this industry to be as close as possible to your customer and not be secluded in your hidey hole far away where you feel comfortable. In Flamatt.
Right.
You got to be out there.
Right.
I mean, we export 100% of what we manufacture in Switzerland and have done so.
100. Oh, there's no local market at all.
Nothing.
Oh, yeah.
And to believe in a globalized world that we can just continue to sell to everyone out there in those far-flung countries stuff that only we can do here in Flamatt. Come on. Again, these societies have developed. They can do a lot of things. And increasingly, it is all customized. So you sit there with highly educated R&D engineers and you co-design things. So you have R&D people over there and you need to build quickly.
Right.
It's all about speed.
Right.
Your products locally.
Yeah.
And so just sending kind of the blueprint over here and say, well, build me that.
Yeah.
They don't feel the pressure of the customer who not only calls you, but just walks into the office and says, where is it?
Oh,
right.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. But, to do that, it's not just a question of speed. It's a question of capital intensity, right? I mean,
True.
So there's enormous investments that have to be made.
Yes.
And then you've got this risk factor there.
Yeah.
does this keep you awake at night thinking about the weight of these kinds of decisions?
It doesn't keep me awake, but I think about it quite a bit.
Right.
So if you just take the site that we built in Penang, that was let's say 40 million Swiss francs.
Mm-hmm.
It's when we took that decision to build there, we had a lot of discussions about that.
Yeah.
You buy land, and then that's the small portion, like 2-3 million.
Right.
And then you build the site, 40 million.
Yeah.
And now we're equipping it with yet another 30 to 40 million. Right. So basically you end up having a capital of close to $100 million there, boom.
Yeah.
And that has to, pay itself back and then some.
Sure.
Right. So these are not light decisions you take. And I also have to say, because I made that comparison to 2007, the way we go about risk management today is much more professional than back then.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, we have, a number of people in the company who think about risk, who manage our risk management process. We review risks in a serious manner, on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
We discuss with the board, involve the board at least twice a year on risks in general. And by the way, if you wouldn't have a risk management process, a very, very serious one, in these days of polycrisis, you'll be lost.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, the decisions that we take today, I don't feel like we're taking more risks. Just also because we are much more cognizant of the world isn't as stable as it used to be.
Yeah.
But you can manage a lot of things also in a much easier manner than back in 2007.
Right. So it's not more risk, it's better managed risk.
I would say so.
Yeah. More professionally managed or more, interesting. This episode is brought to you by Swissquote. In a world of economic uncertainty, having full visibility and control over your finances matters more than ever. Swissquote is Switzerland's leading digital bank, combining everyday banking with advanced trading and investment solutions. So whether you're investing in stocks, ETFs, crypto, or just looking to actively manage your portfolio, Swissquote offers powerful tools, transparent pricing, and the security of a fully regulated Swiss bank. Discover more now at swissquote.com. As an engineer, and I would even say a scientist, right? Close to a scientist, right?
That's a long time ago.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, all right. Maybe that's already answering my question, but I was wondering, what part of this aspect of Stephan Haferl do you bring to decision-making as the CEO, if anything?
So a lot of the decision-making that I have to do or where I am involved in also revolves around technology.
Right.
Especially when you are positioning yourself at the leading edge. And thus, technological questions come up quite often. And I would even go so far as to say, if you do not have a technological background, a sound technological background, you'd be in a lot of pain from, the discussions that you have with investors and analysts,
Right.
to customer discussions,
Right.
Suppliers, or when you talk to your people here.
Yeah.
I would say in a company that is so proud of its technology or technologies, as a leader, as a CEO, who also has to take very often very unpopular decisions, at least they have a certain amount of respect because they know you know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I can't fool this guy.
Right.
He calls me out when I start to
BS
talk smack. Right.
Right. In your experience, are the analysts and investors smart enough about this business to ask you the right questions and understand the answers in general?
Many are. Many are. And it really depends if it is an investor, analyst who within the sector has a narrow part that he or she covers.
Well, then that person has become an expert, I suppose,
Exactly.
right? Or has to become an expert eventually.
A lot of the analysts, they come with a technical background as well.
Right.
So, and then everything else is about the industry, the market, the competitive landscape, and who has a leg up here, and who does what there.
Yeah.
So they are typically very knowledgeable, and then you have more like the broad fund managers. They think about Comet maybe 5 minutes a week. And then before a meeting,
10 minutes a week.
Well, maybe. And before a meeting, a one-on-one or a conference, they read up the latest reports and go back and look at their notes from last time.
Okay.
But I mean, all of them are interesting fellows and good discussion.
Right. Maybe they don't need to know as much as you do, but they just need to understand when you're talking about your business that
Totally.
they get it, right?
I mean, they look at the numbers and pinpoint the things that they feel like, you got to explain that in the context of, let's say, the latest product that you launched. Why don't we see this? We were expecting that, and out of that, you.
When did you become a listed company? Before your time, or
that was before my time.
Okay.
So I think that must have been around 2000, 2001.
Okay. Just was curious as to whether or not that you were here to sort of see what it's like to go from a privately held company.
No,
was it a family owned at that time, or
no? It was always a public company. But I have to say, I was involved in my former roles at capital market days, or had to show around investors or analysts when they came to visit.
Right.
And I would say from 2007 until, what can I say, maybe 2015, 16, around there, it was super sleepy.
Really?
We had almost no analysts covering us. So we were traded at the stock exchange.
Okay.
There was not much attention to us. And then we started to work more professionally on, attracting investors and having more analysts covering us. And today I'm being kept busy with a lot of investor talk and analysts.
I mean, it's in your interest to have more people covering you, right?
Absolutely. It's
even though it's more work.
Many tasks that end up on my desk. Some that I can delegate to my CFO, or also the responsible for investor relations, and Uli. And I would say all in super good hands. And sometimes it is actually fun to talk to them.
Sure. Once in a while.
Sometimes it is tough when you're on a roadshow for 3 days and you go through, 12 group meetings and 20 one-on-ones, and essentially you're telling the same story 30 plus times.
Yeah.
You get home, you're drained.
Sure.
You just want to drown yourself in the shower. It's
Don't, Stephan.
Well, it's hard.
Pull yourself together, man.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I will.
Exactly. Are you ever pushed by these investors to do something that maybe isn't part of your present strategy? Let me give an example. It sounds to me like if you have make versus buy decisions, you always are going for make, right? Or is that not always the case?
So
Have you ever bought a competitor and converted them into a Comet subsidiary?
I wouldn't say a competitor. And you touch on a very important part of our strategic planning process, our strategy 2030. We used to be more of a company that prides itself in making, right? We invent the wheel.
Yeah.
Although we've made a couple of acquisitions throughout the past 20 years, now increasingly we are very much focused on exactly that question. Shall we really make it ourselves, or spend money but save time, increase speed, and acquire the technology? Not, that is important, not for the sake of becoming large, but for the sake of becoming strong.
Yes.
And out of strength, size comes. But to buy size is usually a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And so to your question, would we, or are we buying up competitors? No.
So you're not buying market, you're buying capabilities then, right?
We are very focused on capabilities.
Yeah.
And I think capabilities that are well honed and scarce are the recipe for success in business.
Yeah. So I mean, as you've grown globally over these years, though, you've still maintained this Swissness, right? The Swiss character. Would you say that's true, or maybe I'm putting words in your mouth?
To blend the cultures, and it's interesting you bring that up. So back in 2007, I don't know, we were maybe 400 people worldwide. So within...
How many are you now?
1,800.
Oh, okay, all right.
So within a short period of time, you would know everyone by first name. Kids, yeah. Dog, no. Cat person. You know all of these things.
Right.
And, it was, in one way, delightful and very Swiss.
Yes.
And I would say the years until almost 2020 were marked by, we are exporting Swissness to the rest of the world.
Right.
You would also see quite a bit of, if we open up subsidiaries there or there, we have to send a Swiss guy over there to teach them our culture. And increasingly, we don't do that anymore because we very much value actually the local cultures that are in the local ecosystem far superior to our culture. But we try to blend it so that we do not have cultural barriers.
Okay.
And I think with all the colleagues we have in all these far-flung countries where we are active, they appreciate not only that, they appreciate this Swiss way of going about it, in a slightly awkward manner, good mannered, good intended,
right,
and
very correct,
somewhat overcorrect and conservative, and
right,
but always well intended and good intentioned, and what we create, this cultural soup, is actually quite good.
Yeah, I would think so. Why do you think Switzerland creates so many industry champions such as Comet? What is it about this place that has resulted in comets?
That's certainly a question that has been asked many, many times, and I don't know whether there's a definite answer to that. But I think one of the big pluses that we have in Switzerland is that we've always been small, and we've always focused on educating our people, because we have no natural resources. We don't have, we have access to the sea through the Rhine over the course of more than 1,000 kilometers.
Right.
We're landlocked.
Yeah.
It's not the most hospitable country to live in. You have a dead zone with the mountains. I know Tourism Switzerland will hate me for saying that, but in terms of industrial activities, rather difficult.
Sure.
You have an education system which is really good and works hand in glove with industry.
Yes.
With the vocational training,
Right.
with applied sciences universities or colleges, and then technical universities.
Top in the world.
It is pretty good. It is pretty good, right?
Yeah,
And
come
so
on.
you have all those different levels of people, or kind of walks of life. You have the machinist who started to train on all sorts of machines from the age of 15, 16, went through a vocational training of 4 years, and then started to perfect himself in professional life afterwards.
Right.
On other things, you have many ways of, okay, if you became a machinist, but you know what, I am more interested in, planning. There are so many, educational pathways
Right.
available to you.
Right.
So that I think in Switzerland, you just have an enormously well educated mass of people. So if you have a good idea and funding, you can go and do great things.
Right.
Right.
Sounds to me like you're saying, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like saying since Switzerland doesn't have the natural resources, there's no copper mine in Switzerland, there's no, diamond mines or whatever it might be, but
Not to my knowledge.
But there's talent, right?
There is
and
talent.
That is the natural resource of the country.
That is the natural
business.
resource of Switzerland.
Yeah.
Talent combined with capital.
Yeah.
And a very, very rugged, stable political system.
Yes.
That also helps in this kind of geopolitical, economical storm that is
constantly
raging
brewing
out there, right?
Right.
So
right.
we are boringly stable in many ways.
Right. Right. That Swiss boringness is actually a huge asset, isn't it? Right.
It does help, and we better make sure that we protect that against external influence.
Yeah.
And that we defend it, not only protect it but defend it.
Interesting.
Because it is the foundation of many things in Switzerland, not only industry, also banking, for that matter.
Right. Let me ask you a couple of kind of what if type questions, okay, just to close the conversation, which has been great, by the way.
Oh, are we already?
Are we? I don't even. The time is just. Who cares? It's just I'm enjoying myself, and I hope you are too.
I do.
Supposing that we were having this conversation in 2036, so 10 years in the future, right?
Yep.
Is there anything that you could already say now would probably surprise you about Switzerland 10 years in the future?
Something that would surprise me.
Yeah. About how Switzerland has turned out or has changed or has not changed. Maybe that would be surprising.
Well, I hope that we continue to be boringly stable and steady as she goes.
Right.
I actually hope that there will be no surprises. I would be negatively surprised, unhappy, if we would not defend that independence that we have today.
Right.
Because I think the downsides are much larger than potential partial upsides.
Well,
that would be a negative surprise.
Right.
If we were to choose that path,
right.
I don't think Switzerland will be the same.
Okay.
In 10 years, you can break a lot of things.
Yeah, for sure. What about the same question, just speaking about Comet itself? What would surprise you in 10 years to look at the company itself?
It would surprise me if we would still be a company that only brings 2 technology families to the market. It would surprise me if Flamatt Switzerland would still be by far the largest site.
Oh,
And it would surprise me if we would still do certain things only in Switzerland. I think if we went more globalized, more international, that would be a surprise. So I truly
that would be a surprise if you went more global?
No, if we weren't
If you weren't more global, sorry.
more global than today.
Yes. I misheard you.
And that doesn't necessarily mean in more countries,
Yeah, I get it.
but that we would have more of, let's say, key activities closer to the customer. And that in many ways means also more in Asia.
Right. But still maintaining your nerve center here in Switzerland?
We're stock listed here in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And, interestingly enough, almost all of my executive committee members are from Switzerland or live in Switzerland.
Right.
And I would be surprised if in 2036 that would still be the case. So increasingly, I believe the decision-making power should be closer to the customer. And since our customers aren't in Switzerland, I could very well imagine that we have increasingly, top executives that live and work in Asia.
Okay. And they don't all have to live and work, not live, but work under the same roof then?
No.
You could have an executive committee, your management team could be globally spread out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what Zoom is for, right?
You're correct. And in a way, the three divisions, they already practice that.
Right.
So the group itself is still very Swiss-centric or Switzerland-based.
Right.
Whereas when you look into the divisions, the individual companies that make up the Comet Group, there you already have, for some time, had the situation that, certain division management members, they live in the US or in China or in, you name it.
Right. And these days, that's not an issue, really, is it?
Not at all.
Just a time zone issue, and that's about it.
Yeah, and that can be sometimes nasty.
No, I know. But other than that, it's just flip a switch and there's the face on your screen, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost the same as being face-to-face, almost.
It is better than being on the phone.
Yeah, that's for sure. Stephan, this has been just a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your time, especially since you just got back from the trip to Germany, as you mentioned, and literally off the plane and into the conversation.
Sure.
So thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing your thoughts on all of these subjects. And I wish you a fantastic future here at in Flamatt, and that may the company just continue to just flourish worldwide. It would just be great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you soon.
See you.
Bye-bye all.